If you're a mental health pro, you've got to check out Therapy Notes. Manage your billing, scheduling, and more with ease and style. Plus, ePrescribe is here, and you can unlock 2 free months with the code LISA at checkout at therapynotes.com. Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Well, hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, we're diving into the heart of fatherhood and the adventures that lie within our very homes. And I'm thrilled to have on the podcast Dr. Jason Frishman, the brilliant mind behind JourneyMen. And together, we're going to explore how fathers can journey through life with purpose, responsibility, and intention. Jason's signature program, the Connected Fathers Coaching Program and Community, is transforming the way men perceive and embrace their roles as partners, parents, and individuals. So, whether you're a dad, you know a dad, or just want to understand the profound journey of fatherhood, this episode is for you. We hope you enjoy and find value. Well, hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. It's so great to be back in your earbuds. Hope you're having a great week. And I want to welcome my guest today, Dr. Jason Frishman. Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Excellent, Lisa. Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And don't forget, you guys can always watch the interview over on YouTube. You can see Jason. He's got lots of books behind him. He looks very smart. He looks very smart. I love it. And then I'm, of course, at home, just in the bedroom recording. So, Jason, can you share with our audience a little bit, who you are, what you do, and how you help?
Oh, excellent. Before I do that, though, the books and everything, it's really lovely, but outside of frame is the mess of my home. So, it's all set up just like that. But my name is Jason Frishman, and I've been working as a psychologist for about 25 years. I work and I run or I'm part of running a nonprofit consensus-based organization here in Burlington, Vermont. And then about 6 years ago, I started a coaching program called JourneyMen, where I work with fathers to help them to uncover the treasures of their everyday adventures with their families and with themselves. So it's been amazing. And I more importantly, I usually start with this, but I live in a rural area of Vermont with my wife and my two sons who are 15 and 12. So I'm
Nice.
also a dad.
Yeah, nice. I'm
Yeah.
really curious about how you decided to shift into this work.
Well, I mean, to me, that's a really powerful story because, I've been working with, this might date me a little bit, but I've always said my practice is a boys to men practice. And so,
I get it.
um,
I get it.
we'll see who else
Yeah.
gets that reference. But I've always worked with boys, men, and families. And when I had my own kids, I shifted away from working with kids and more towards working with men and fathers. And yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, well, actually, before that, I'll say in the therapy world, I've always been a little bit of an outsider.
Mhm.
I have my master's degree is in adventure therapy, and my doctorate degree, I focused on narrative therapy. So I'm an
Okay.
adventure storyteller in
Nice.
the way that I work and heal with people. And so that has always been a little fringy and a little bit on the side of in the traditional medical model of the therapy world. And while I think it's been incredibly helpful to a lot of men and families who have been really hurting, the vast majority of men that I see are disconnected and you know disconnected. And
Mhm.
so about 5 years ago, I'm sitting with a client who spent the first 20 minutes of our session telling me about the great weekend he had with his buddies, right? And it was full of activities you might assume a bunch of men getting together away from their families might do. And he's telling me how great it is and giving me all these details. And then he got quiet though, and he said, "But if my wife left me, I'd have no one to tell." And it was heartbreaking. Here it is, he's got all these buddies, but basically what he's telling me is it's at a surface level. It's not a genuine, authentic group of friends who are loving and emotionally expressive and supportive. And the kick to it was in my waiting room, the next client that I was going to see, who I've known for 8 years, I knew very well that those two guys could be real friends. But because of the bureaucratic and logistical reasons, I can't even introduce them, right? Like I can't even help make a connection without a lot of extra work, right? And so for me, the idea of moving towards coaching was about building a community of men and about connecting guys who could really support one another and who are interested in doing this kind of work, which is moving away from clinical like serious clinical issues. Like a lot of my guys are going to therapists, and I
Mm-hmm.
also tell any new clients that, if we're going to work together in coaching, I cannot be your therapist.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of the inner emotional worlds that men have to deal that we all have to deal with, there is a social contextual world that men, we've been, well, frankly, the patriarchy doesn't like men either.
Right.
And so as early as 2 and 3, boys and men are sort of bullied against making authentic, loving connections with one another.
Mm.
And so in the coaching world, I have more of a freedom to really connect with men and connect men in a different sort of way than behind the sort of sacrosanct walls and rooms of the therapy office.
So I have a question for you. Do you feel like that's something new with this generation because, or millennials, or because I'm Gen X, you're Gen X too, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't seem to notice that with our generation. Like I look, and this just could be my world that I live in, but the men in my life, like my husband, he is very connected. He has very good friends, male friends. They do
Mhm.
things together. Um, I look around at my friends' husbands, I'm seeing that as well. They might be a little bit younger than me. But do you feel like it's something that's like a new thing or
No, I think my honestly, and I don't know you that well, but my
yeah,
guess is that there's you have you have your bubble, right? Like,
okay.
your husband is married to someone who's a therapist, so clearly he's got some emotional connectedness. And myself included, I have lots of wonderful male friends.
Yeah, okay.
But I think it's actually in some ways the opposite. It's been getting better. Some of the younger men are seeing connections with friends, but as a culture, um we still don't do a great job. I hear guys all the time talking about, I was with my kids at the playground and I saw another dad and it was uncomfortable to go and talk to him. It felt like I was getting someone's digits, or there's an entire genre of film,
Mm,
romances, where we have to make fun of men making friends in
mm,
order like movies about men making close friends are rarely not comedies,
okay. Okay.
right? And
Okay.
so there is a cultural piece to it. I think it's changing, and
Mhm,
like I think there are a lot of people in our generation who do have close friends.
mhm,
Certainly think that is there. But I've heard from, you know, I'll just echo one of the guys in my group who actually he was in my beta group and I've been friends with him for decades. But he was willing to do the beta group because he said, I'm living in the middle of a community where I haven't connected with guys and I
mm,
haven't, I'm working a lot. I'm often working. I'm often, being with the family. And so I don't have the time to spend and have close friends. And at sort of our age, working, with dads who are sort of, we'll say 38 to 48, 52, that kind of thing. Um, there's a lot less both time, resources, and ability
okay. I
to
got you.
to to connect in those ways. So I think it's lovely that your husband does. Like I said, I do, and the men
Mhm,
that I have are lifesavers for me. And
mhm,
I think what happens is that we don't. I mean, the way example I'd say is my dearest friend. We went to camp together when we were 12. We've been best friends pretty much since we were about 14. And even so, like I do this work, he was a teacher, like sensitive guys, right?
mhm,
It took us until our I don't know, our 20s maybe even our 30s before we said I love you to one
Mm,
another.
right.
And
Okay.
even
Yeah.
then it was like, I love you, man.
Right.
And then it was our 30s before it was I love you, brother.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then literally we're in our late 40s now. I'm 49. And it was only in the last couple of years when we were able to genuinely and with comfort say, I love you. Like, I really appreciate having you in my life and I love you.
Yeah.
A lot of, and that's with two guys who are pretty, open
Yeah.
to it,
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's lovely. I think that's really, I mean, I think that's really nice that men are having these conversations, are able to have the conversations. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And and I have to kind of explain a little bit the context that I come from, the work that I do. I work with military. So it's like the folks that I help, it's almost like not to, of course, Band of Brothers was like an amazing, you know, platoon of men in the World War II. But I see that in where I work in the context of what I work. So a lot of this is kind of like new for me to think about because I'm not aware anecdotally, as a therapist outside of the, like you said, the bubble that I work in. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation to kind of open up to our listeners, like maybe they're kind of stuck like me in this bubble and they don't know if this is going on. I mean, not that I don't know that it's going on, but you get what I'm saying. Like I don't that's not usually an issue that is brought up in when I'm working with men, with soldiers, sort of thing. So but maybe need to explore it some more. Like, who is your battle buddy? Not just really in the military, but like in life, like what men do you rely on? Do you have close relationships? What are those like? How do you is that something that you would like to have? What's it like to maybe not have those things? And yeah, okay. So tell
And most
yeah,
guys, just to add to that really quickly, most guys will also say, I don't need that. I'm
mm,
happy. I got my, I have a few buddies. I'm happy with my family. I'm working. Like,
yeah,
I don't need that.
yeah,
And, you know, humans need connections and need
sure.
emotional connections, just like we need food and water.
Yeah. Yeah. So how would somebody know if they are a fit for for your program? Like what type of problems do you help them, I guess, solve?
What's this is something that I should be able to say very quickly and off the top of my head, but I don't like to do that in terms of sound bites. So I'll give you a little bit of a longer thing, which is basically, if you're a dad,
Mhm,
right? You want what's best for, your family, your kids, your partner, and you're carrying sort of the weight of the world, right? A lot of men that I know, they're concerned about, the world their kids are going out into.
mhm,
They're concerned about their kids in general, right? They're concerned about, like, how are my kids growing up and what's the best way to do it, and how, and simultaneously, guys who are sort of starting to think about themselves and who am I as a model, and who am I as a leader, and who am I as, a person in this family. So some of the problems that I've had guys come in are, at maybe at work I'm a leader and people listen to me and I know what I'm doing, but at home, like, I speak up and everyone's walking by, or I get home and I'm hiding in the bathroom, or I don't know exactly how to fit. I have my expectations when I come into the door at the end of the day, and they're not met. And so how
mhm,
do I handle that, right? How do I connect and reconnect with my kids, with my partner, and really be there, be present? So the main problem is, how to be more present with my family, how to be more managed in my emotional response. So, what happens often is we have this idea, it's not met. I'm oversimplifying, of course, but
sure.
we have this idea, it's not met, and then we can get reactive. And the old stories of how to be a man and how to be a father get in the way of this emotional connection and real practical connection, actually, not just emotional, but like, you know, what was that book years ago, how to speak so your kids will listen and listen to your kids will speak, that kind of thing. This is really like how to be more present with your kids so they will be more present with you, and you have
Right.
this long-term relationship.
Have you ever felt lost in a sea of paperwork and scheduling chaos? Well, now you can dive into a smoother practice with Therapy Notes. Ranked as the premier electronic health record system, Therapy Notes is your lifeline in the bustling world of mental health. With their unwavering 7-day live phone support, it's no surprise they've earned a stellar 4.9 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot.com and Google. From seamless billing to intuitive scheduling, note taking, and telehealth, they've got you covered. And for their dedicated prescribers out there, they are thrilled to unveil one of their latest features, which is ePrescribe. Transitioning from another EHR? Well, you can sail smoothly with Therapy Notes. They will import your demographic data without any changes, ensuring you're set to navigate from the get-go. So you can join the fleet of over 100,000 mental health professionals anchored by Therapy Notes. Embark on a 2-month free voyage with them. Simply click the link in the show notes or drop anchor with promo code Lisa at checkout at therapynotes.com. Set sail with Therapy Notes today and discover the calmer waters ahead. Why drift when you can steer with the best? Okay, back to the interview with Jason. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. It's tough. It can be tough, you come home from work. And I mean, I can relate like as a mom too. I remember, and this is just kind of like what you're saying. Like I remember picking up one of my daughters from preschool and just so excited to see her and to pick her up. And then she just like gets in the car and it's like tantrum, and I'm just like, oh,
Mhm.
what? Like, no, this
Yeah,
is not how it's supposed to be. And
it's lovey time. Come
yeah,
on.
like who are you to have a tantrum? I haven't seen you all day. Now I want to take you back inside. So, but I get it. Like it's tough because we have expectations. We have, our own ideas of what we want and what we need. And then kids are gonna be kids and they're gonna have their own stuff, or their own moment. It's not always perfect and it's not always pretty. So I can imagine the frustration because I've been there. I know what that feels like. Okay, this is really helpful. So tell us a little bit how the program is structured. Like I want, I'm a dad and I'm coming to your program. No, I mean obviously not, but what what is what's the program like? Like how's it set up?
So it's an interesting model for right now. Basically, it's an individualized group program.
Hmm.
So it's sort of a hybrid because many of as you may know, many of the coaching programs are sort of like, here we all have this goal, we're going to do this together, we're going to 90 days and everything will be better.
Right.
And so much of that, especially in the men's work world, reflects a particular narrative. We can talk about this some other time if you want, but the hero's journey, right?
Hmm.
Like that is a big story in the men's world. And after doing a lot, research, my dissertation, my work for the last 20 years has really been about questioning that. And so we throw that on its head, right? And so to answer your question, so the Connected Fathers coaching program is, I call it, I get to host a virtual in where men can step in, let their shoulders down, and share and be heard. And why do anyone go to an inn, right? Like if we think about the greatest movies and stories, why do people go to the inns, the taverns, those places of gathering? They go to get nourishment. They go to share and tell stories. They go to get some, more information or tools or a new path to walk or something new to try. And they go to like to gather, to connect. And so the coaching program is a 3-ish month program. And I say ish because I tend to over deliver. I'll get to that in a minute. But I meet with each guy individually first, where they identify a goal, which I call a treasure, because each one of the guys is on their own journey. We call it the fatherhood journey. And they identify the treasure they're seeking on their 3-month journey, very explicitly saying this isn't going to cure everything in the world and this isn't going to make everything better. It's let's look on this one thing that we're going to work on. And once we have the individual meeting, then we meet once a week for 3 months. We have a virtual Zoom call. Typically, it's during the workday because I don't want to take away from family time in the evenings or the weekends. And the calls are sort of threefold. There is every 2 weeks there's a module, there's educational and challenges and activities that the guys get to do. And so the weekly coaching calls are one to review those and go over and share how guys are going with that and talking about the work and asking questions. The second is just sort of group process, getting guys to be there for one another and to talk with them about, to one another and connect. And then the third is, if frankly, if stuff really hits the fan for a guy, if things are challenging and they share that, we can put the entire curriculum and everything to the side. We'll add another meeting at the end of the program, and we're there for that guy. Right.
Gotcha.
And so that's why I say 3-ish months. And so the program has the weekly meetings. It has the every 2 week sort of challenges and activities for guys to learn what some people might call homework. And then there's also a private text group where guys in between meetings can support and like catch up with one another and talk that way. And then on top of that, once a week, I have an open Zoom call for anyone who's ever gone through the Journeyman program, and there's no agenda. It's sort of a gathering, and so that's the primary pieces of it, and we're building and growing, moving into other things after that. But that's the main offering right now for Journeyman.
Very cool. Very cool. So if somebody listening wanted to learn more about Journeyman, where would they go?
Simple would be journeymanfoundation.com. That's my website.
Mhm.
And right now it's just me. So, if someone wanted to email me at, jason@nourishedconnections.com, you'll
Okay.
get a response from me personally.
Great. Okay. And I'll definitely put all that in the show notes, everybody. So if you don't worry about, you can catch that later. Well, cool.
I'm also on socials, all
Yeah.
that kind of thing, which I can send you the links. That's how we met. So
Yeah. Yeah. And so
yeah.
I know one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that you do a is it weekly
Mhm.
Facebook video?
Well, it's not. It's a weekly video that I record and then I post on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
And it's I call it the Innkeepers Weekly, where basically I share a little bit about the work that we're doing in our groups and some of the things that have been pertinent to members that are working. Keeping confidentiality, of course, but really what the week's topic has been to share a little bit about what the men are doing. Because they're working on themselves, they're working on their connections with their families, and they're also working on sort of men's work in general and how our place in this world needs to evolve.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm thinking about the mothers out there. Is there anything as you run these groups that you notice about mothers that you could let us know? Like, because you don't, I know you focus on fathers. I'm guessing the fathers might talk about their wives or their mothers. Is there like any like overarching message that your fathers kind of it comes about within the groups usually? I'm just curious.
Mm. No, that's a great question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is, and I think this has been pretty consistent through all of the groups I've run, is two parts. One is there is a consistent and meaningful desire from men to be connected more deeply and intimately with their partners, right? Like there is that there. At the same time, I think there's been a missed communication. Guys are willing and eager to learn more about this, and at the same time have to move through their own defensiveness around things. And so, as men are doing this work, they're also going, oh, all right, I understand a little bit more the perspective of my partner, right? And so someone asked me this question once before because they too, most of their audience were women and wives and mothers, and really said, what would you like men, the wives and mothers to know about the men in your group? And I said, which is a little different question, but I basically said, without fail, the guys that I speak to love their kids and their partners, and want to be connected more deeply. And yet for lots of reasons,
Yeah.
everything from sociocultural to individual and personal histories, they're challenged with it and it's hard, right? One thing that I will say, which I am very proud of, I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday, is I've been running groups in Journeyman for about 4.5 years, and never once has it been a mom or a wife bashing. Like it just like I have never needed to sort of facilitate that or move us away from that. Like it's not a part of the culture of the groups we're running, because obviously these are guys who want to be more connected,
Sure.
and so they may talk about frustrations, they may talk about being upset or even angry, but it's never once turned into like a female bashing or like I don't even want to repeat some of the language that could be used, but that sense, it has really always been an incredibly strong movement towards
Yeah.
creating partnerships and deeper connections.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm really proud
Yeah, you should be proud of that. That's
of.
amazing. That's incredible work that you're doing. I love how you're helping so many dads. And it reminds me a little bit of the conversation I had with Avram Weiss a few episodes back. I don't know if you know who he is, Dr. Avram Weiss.
Sounds familiar, but I don't think
Okay.
so. No.
Yeah, so he has a book out, like I think it's called Why Men Fear Women. And I
Mm,
interviewed him a few episodes back. And it's interesting because you guys, there's some similar themes that he brought up and that you're bringing up. And anyway, I won't get into all that. Y'all can go listen to the episode, but it does kind of like it does seem to his findings of men in therapy and your findings as well are seem like you have some common thread. So I find that really interesting. So it's a like a universal experience for a lot of men to
mhm.
to feel this way. So really cool work, Jason. I'm so excited for how you're helping fathers and helping them be, better for themselves as well as for their kids and for their family. So, is there anything else you think our listeners should know?
No, I think it's just stressing the importance of connecting and listening to one another, and that there isn't I believe more and more there's this honest desire for both men and women to connect on this deeper level. And that's, I think, where I go from the personal and individual and like helping guys with their family to a more sociocultural thing. Part of Journeyman's mission really is to support this develop in the change of our cultural narratives around men. And I think that's really a powerful place to go, because so many of our stories and so many of our movies and books and all these things, they share and they represent or they present a particular way of being masculine that no longer serves us. It no longer works in the same way. And so, one by one, I think the fathers that get involved in Journeymen are, I often say a connected father at home is a social activist.
How do you see that playing out though? Like, do you have like an ideal? I know it's probably different for every father, but like, do you have like an ideal set of values or um, priorities that this program kind of wants men to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you probably know this from lots of coaching talks, but us coaches, we like mnemonics and
Mm.
cute things that spell things. So, what actually is the foundational kind of philosophy or core foundations for journeyman in general? It actually spells men's, like men's work.
Okay.
And so the way I talk about it would be the in and the out breaths of men's work, because each letter, MENS, is both an in breath and an out breath. The in breath is the work we have to do ourselves, and the out breath is the awareness of our cultural context, our family context, the people around, our social context, people around us. And so, M would be mindfulness.
Okay.
And so I write that specifically with two words, mindful, because it's not just about mindful meditation. It's really about being aware of what's going on inside of you. And there's lots of different ways to get at that. And
Mm.
so mindful of myself and mindful of the people around me, right? The next would be experiences. And that's something that I think is really important for everyone. But what are the actions that I have to take that I need for myself, whether it's exercise or, routines or things like that? And those for those around me, I need to be more aware of that. The third, the N, is nourishment. And again, I'm a cook. I've done all sorts of like professional cooking and teaching and things like that. So there's obviously food nourishment, but more importantly is what fills us up. And again, myself and others. And then the last one, which I joke it had to be last because men's is only spelled that way, but really you can only get to this last letter without, you know, if you've done the first three. But the S, is for social responsibility and social action. And so after gaining sort of a sense of mindfulness, choosing active experiences and feeling nourished in a way that you can be more aware and be more present to your life, then there's a responsibility to take some social action and responsibility to encourage a better world. And so that starts at home, right? If I'm a more connected dad, my children are going to see that. They're going to see even in the littlest things. For example, when my kids were very young, my wife was the primary caregiver staying home. We decided on that. We were intentional about that. But we were also very intentional that we were never, and we corrected others, we would never use the phrase, Papa's going to work. Because what does that say about Mama who stayed home? Right. So we would say, Papa's going to the office. Right. That's a social action piece. That is language that changes things. And we corrected others when they said that. We made sure we said it in front of people who were friends who were visiting. And our children now, my two sons, who are 15 and 12, have that. We still use that. We have that. They have that in their head, that the work of home and the work of office are equally important.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I was just reflecting on one of the questions that I usually ask is, does your wife work outside of the home? Like I'll ask, work outside. Because I think that you're right. Like, I mean, I guess, because I like to say I work two jobs. I work at home and then I go and I have my job. And well, I work three jobs. I have a podcast. But yeah, I'm so glad you gave that example, because I kind of just like, let's, just do that. But I know what I'm doing. Like when I ask that question, how I'm phrasing it, where I'm coming from. But I'm really glad that you phrased it like that, and that that's cool that you're showing your kids that. That's really neat.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for your. I know I keep saying this, but I'm excited for your program. I'm excited how you're helping fathers, and well, this has just been so great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing what you're doing with our listeners.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm obviously love to talk about it, but as I've told you offline, I've watched your stuff for a long time, and I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, well, thank
For sure.
you. Thanks so much. So I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jason. Don't forget you can connect with him over at his website. Just click on the link in the show notes. Before we end today's episode, I have two things I want to offer. If you are a therapist and you are looking to create more income, pivot your skill sets, do something new, create an additional stream of revenue, I want to encourage you to grab my free download. It has over 50 ideas for additional streams of revenue. Go ahead and grab that list at the link in the show notes, okay? Also, one more thing, if you are looking to bolster your emotional health, I have another free gift for you. It's called The 15 Habits That Support Your Mental Health. It's a free ebook. You can also grab that link in the show notes and get on your way. And it also includes a self-care checklist. So if you're needing extra support in either one of those niches, I hope you will grab those freebies. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I look forward to being in your earbuds again soon. The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is edited and engineered by Chelsea Weaver. If you're looking to start a podcast or ready to take the editing off of your plate, be sure to visit chelseaweaverpodcasting.com. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine.
Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content.
And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.